So we've talked about the brain and how it's distinguished between the neocortex and the limbic system, what we're calling the what neocortex and the why the limbic system. A couple important things to note. All of our language comes from the neocortex. There is no capacity for language in the limbic system. And yet, all of our decision making comes from the limbic system. In other words, we can't put into words why we do the things that we do or the feelings we have that compel us to do it. I'll prove it to you. If I were to ask you a really logical based question, like, what did you do to go from your home to the grocery store and back the last time you went? Or if you were to ask me, hey, Nathan, you're there in your studio. What did you do to get from your home to your studio? Very easy for me to answer. I live in North Florida. I got on Route 95. I drove and then I got off of Route 95 and I came downtown to Jacksonville and I parked and I walked in and I used my key fob and yada, yada. Very uninspiring, but very logical and very easy to put into words. If I ask you a second question, like, hey, why did you marry your spouse? Or why did your spouse marry you? Try to put that into words in the next 30 seconds. Good luck, right? You can't, because it's a deeply emotional decision and it's a big life decision. So you couldn't possibly do it justice in a minute in spoken word. So what you'll find yourself doing probably is scratching your head a bit and saying, well, you know, Nathan, I just had a gut feeling. I just knew. And when you know, you know. And we would ooh and we would ah, and we would say, wow, that's wonderful. But it doesn't exactly answer the question, right? In fact, I might even challenge it and say, did you eat Chipotle that day? Because if so, you may want to assess that decision if you were proposed to on the same day that you had a burrito, or right? So all silliness aside, we can't put it into words. So we chalk it up to this hunch, to the Holy Spirit, to, well, sometimes it is the Holy Spirit, right? But that really, like, I don't know, I just sort of knew, right? I just had this gut feeling. And that's awesome. So what we want to do as people and as leaders and as brands and as pastors and as politicians and as movers and shakers is create a scenario where the other party is having a good gut feeling, a good experience with you. And they can sort of gut check and go, you know, I got a good feeling about you. I got a good feeling about this. I got a good vibe about this. And you can't fake that because the limbic system will pick it up. It can sense it. It knows if you're the real deal. It knows if you're authentic. It knows if what you're doing is really to serve and to help. So if this is the case, then why are we trying to hammer people over the head with all the logical reasons that they should participate, all the logical reasons that they should buy, all the logical reasons that they should join? That just doesn't work. And if it does work, it loses its luster pretty quickly because it has to settle right with their core. I would much rather somebody later fill in the logic, later justify the decision. Put another way, think of the last time you went to Target or Walmart or Costco. Did you only buy what was on your list of logical things that you needed? No way. If those companies, or these companies would go out of business if it weren't for you and I doing all the impulse buying. Right? We go in with a list of 10 things and we leave with 20. The whole place is designed to get us to do that. Right? Now, on the way out, and when we look at the grocery list and when we unpack, you know, from being there, we justify it. We settle it in logic and say, of course I needed a 50-gallon drum of ketchup, right? I mean, that's a lifetime supply. When do you stop using ketchup, right? You get the point. So it's crucial that we aren't out leading with logic. We aren't out leading with what? Now, there's been a whole, notion, a whole movement, a whole, just lot of energy centered around the why. And heck, leading with who and the lead with who book, the lead with who philosophy, the lead with who way, this very chapter and soon to be course, it's all been inspired by a book, Start With Why. And I struggle with this because I have a lot of respect for Simon Sinek, and I don't want to be debunking, but I think there's something far deeper than the mission or the calls or the purpose or what you might say is your why or my why. And I want to prove that to you. I want to really drive the point home because I think that if you put the why in the proper place, it can really be an important piece to the puzzle. I just don't think it's what you start with. Because when you start, or I should say a start often has a finish, right? And what we're building isn't something that should be finite. It should be infinite, right? It should be something that's eternal, something that's ongoing, something that's sort of more of a state of being than it is just a starting line and trying to accomplish something. So I'm going to really bust up the why, and I want to just give you a warning that like you may be triggered, right? You know those like warnings that come up. If you're somebody that says, but Nathan, I've hung my whole hat on the why. In the next video, I'm going to try to get you to let go of the why. Not permanently and not entirely, but I think there's something that precedes it that's far more important.